let's start with our motivation. And I think one quality of our precious human life that we often take for granted is the good functioning of our mind. You know, that we aren't suffering from dementia or severe mental illness. You know, we can think kind of clearly once in a while. And, you know, we can listen and understand language. We can think about what we hear. So I think that's something that's quite important for Dharma study, and, you know, something not to take for granted, because, you know, as we age or as different karma ripens, that ability of the mind to think clearly and to process information could very easily change. So again, while we have the time and the opportunity and the possibility, then we should really make use of a mind and a brain that function well, or reasonably well. And of course, to put them in the service of all mother sentient beings, and make our life meaningful by generating wisdom, by generating bodhicitta. Okay, so with that motivation, then we'll listen and discuss tonight. So I was thinking about this because my college roommate's sister, who is a year younger than me, is already suffering from dementia and got involved in, you know, one of these scams where people pretend to be somebody and they need money and please send me money, and yeah, so her money's gone that way, and yeah. So it's really bad news. So, you know, really made me think how precious it is, you know, not to be able to have a mind that functions reasonably well, you know. I mean, we're hallucinating all the time, but we're not conventionally hallucinating. Yeah, we have ultimate hallucinations. Or hallucinations about the ultimate, but not about the conventional. Okay, shall we introduce Becca to the audience?
Yes.
So we have a new kitty who is joining us for teachings. Yes. This is his first teaching, his introduction to the Dharma. So come in front of the cameras, Becca. So what is this? This is Becca. Put your paws together and say hello on your Dharma friend.
Now we have all the four measurables and reservations.
Yes.
The each and two life forms.
Yes. So we have the four reservations, three life forms: Maitri, love; Karuna, compassion; Mudita, joy; and Upekkha, equanimity. Okay, so now take your seat.
And listen well.
And listen well, yes. Stay awake. So, in the Gomchen Lamrim, it says mental karmas as intentions are karmas, not karmic paths. And the 7 physical and verbal karmas are karmas and karmic paths as well. So the 3, coveting and so forth, are karmic paths but not karmas. And an action that an intention instigates is necessarily a karmic path. Clear, right? Okay. So we talk about intention, karma, and intended karma. Okay? So intention karma and intended karma. So intention karma is mental karma. And what that means, it's the mental factor of intention that is accompanying a primary mind that also has another kind of mental factor accompanying it that makes it either virtuous or non-virtuous. So we just got done with the 10 non-virtuous paths of non-virtue. So what that means is, like, coveting is an affliction. It's not a karma, because remember, afflictions cause karmas. It's not karmas causing afflictions. It's afflictions cause karmas. So in your mind, when there's an affliction, let's say attachment, which is how coveting starts out, yeah, that's a mental factor that's in this whole group of 5 things in common, that are concomitant together with that primary mental consciousness. So that mental factor of attachment colors the primary consciousness and the other 5 omnipresent mental factors, one of which is intention, and makes them all non-virtuous. So that mental factor of intention there is the mental karma. Okay? Then, based on the mental karma that we have, we do verbal and physical actions that are called the intended karma. Okay, let me call up one other thing here. What was the last sentence?
Based on the mental karma, we do verbal.
Yeah, based on the mental karma, our mental intention, then that motivates us to say and do things, yeah, which are the physical and verbal. They become the physical and verbal karmas. Okay, so there's one thing here that might be helpful to read. Okay. So, we'll go through this. It's a little bit longer. Karma or action is of 2 types: intention karma and intended karma. Okay? The intended karma is produced from the intention karma. So the intention karma is mental action, or mental karma, specifically the mental factor of intention. Okay? And because once a strong intention arises in the mind, then physical and verbal actions follow. Okay? And they are the intended karma. Okay? So physical and verbal actions may be either perceptible karma or revelatory karma, was an old translation, or imperceptible karma. Okay? So perceptible karma or revelatory means that the physical and verbal actions, you can tell from what the person's saying or the position of their body, what it reveals their motivation. Their motivation is perceptible in some ways. Then there's imperceptible karma, physical and verbal karma, which you doesn't reveal, or you can't perceive the person's intention through their speech or their body. Okay? So, for example, they say when we're taking precepts, pratimoksha precepts, okay? So when we're kneeling down when we take them, then that is perceptible karma, because you can see that the person has the intention to take precepts. Yeah, but after the ceremony, person's walking around, you can't see anything. So the precepts themselves have become imperceptible karma. Okay? So this is asserted by the Vaibhasikas and the Prasangikas. Yeah. Now, I've done my darndest to try and understand imperceptible karma, exactly what it is. And I can't put my finger on it. Yeah. They say it has something, because it's some kind of form. It's a form, it's physical. So it's a form, some subtle aspect of the elements that in the case of pratimoksha precepts, they say it acts like a dam and it prevents us from doing negative actions. Okay, so that the precepts themselves have are this subtle form, which you remember when we were talking before about forms of that only the mental consciousness can perceive? So it's one of those. Okay? So it helps us not to create negativity. Yeah? So that's why when you take the pratimoksha precepts, you have to really concentrate very strongly when they're being given and imagine that, you know, that all the energy of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and everything is coming into you in the form of the precept, and that, or precepts, and, you know, and so that you get the imperceptible precept body. Okay, they call it, in Dharmaguptaka, they call it a precept body. Yeah? So it's this imperceptible form, which is a form for mental consciousness that helps us not to go beyond a certain limit in our behavior. Okay? Because it's this, they say that our precepts, the pratimoksha precepts, are this imperceptible form, then that's why they don't come with us to our future lives, because at the time of death, the mind and the body, which is form, separate. So all these, we leave behind the imperceptible forms, which are the precepts too. So that's why in our future lives, we have to take the pratimoksha precepts again. The bodhisattva and tantric precepts are not imperceptible form. So that's why they say that when we take them, we have them all the way until enlightenment. Or actually, we have a similitude of the bodhisattva precepts, a similitude of the tantric precepts. Okay? And they say that comes with us all the way until enlightenment. So it's different than the pratimoksha precepts. Okay? So the mental karma is the mental factor of intention, which is included in the fourth aggregate of volitional factors. And it accompanies the primary mind. When the mental factor accompanying that primary mind, and that primary mind is also accompanied by another mental factor, let's say attachment, or let's say love, then it colors that primary mind and all the different mental factors that are concomitant with it. So remember, Jeffrey gave the example, which is much better than the old example in the text is like a hand with 5 fingers, you know, the 5 fingers being the omnipresent mental factors. Jeffrey's is a much better example. It's like they're all lights and they all blend together. Yeah, so you can't really pull them apart and tear them apart because they're all one nature. But in addition to those 5 omnipresent ones, then you could have attachment, you can have compassion, you can have other things. And those other things that are afflictions, which are non-virtuous, or other mental factors that are the virtuous ones, then they make that whole cognition virtuous or non-virtuous. And so specifically, that mental factor of intention is the karma. Okay. So, so it's talking about that here. So coveting is a pathway of karma, because it's a pathway that leads to a rebirth, but it's not a karma because it's an affliction. But the mental factor of intention that's together with it is the karma. And it's the intended karma. Okay. And then from that, you get the body, the physical and verbal karmas. Okay? So, for example, coveting is the mental factor of attachment. The mental factor of intention that accompanies it, is the mental karma. And then that motivates us to shoplift, for example, okay, which is the physical karma. Yeah. But then, if the physical karma has got to be either perceptible or imperceptible form, then that can't come with us to future lives. It has to be the mental factor of intention. That, wait a minute, because the physical action can leave a shikpa.
That's what,
Yeah. So not only the mental factor of intention leaves a shikpa, but the physical action is going to leave a shikpa also. As and the verbal thing will leave a shikpa as well. Okay. So that finished up that section in,
Can I ask a question about covetousness that I still don't quite get? So if we have that very thing, so you have the coveting, the attachment grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, but then you go legally purchase the thing.
Yeah, legal or not legal, it doesn't matter.
It's still covetous.
It's still coveting.
If you go shoplift it, then it's instigated on another level.
Yeah, because the shoplifting is a physical action.
Right.
The purchasing legally is an action. It's going to be non-virtuous because it's motivated by coveting, but the coveting itself is the mental. Okay? Yeah. We think, when we say mental, we automatically think of it coming out physically. It doesn't have to, because you could sit there and, plan for a long time about all this stuff you're going to buy, and then you don't go get it. Okay. Okay, so now there's a section on the seriousness of the 10 karmic paths. So the Gomchen Lamrim says, for the 7 physical and verbal karmas, the preceding ones are more serious than the ones that follow. So we talked about this before. So killing is more serious than stealing, which is more serious than unwise and unkind sexual behavior. And then the same with the speech ones, lying, and then they go down in seriousness. With the moreover, it is said that those motivated will win. But then the ones with wrong views, that's most serious, then malice, and then coveting. Okay? So moreover, it is said that those motivated by a strong form of any of the 3 poisons, done over a long period of time, habitually or many times, are more serious. Okay? So there it just gave different factors that make something more serious. But then it says, the karma generated continuously, passionately, with no antidote, Those are 3. 4th, in relation to a basis with good qualities are important to us. The basis being divided into 2, possessor of good qualities and the beneficent, so that makes 5. So these 5 factors make any virtue or non-virtue that you do heavier. Okay. This is why I'm not happy with this translation. So let's go to Lamrim Chenmo. Okay, the translation's much better here, much clearer. So here is the section on the weights of the 10 paths of non-virtuous actions. It shouldn't say action, just 10 non-virtuous paths. So, so the first one is in terms weighty due to the attitude, are those done with intense forms of the 3 mental poisons. Okay, so one factor that makes any action heavy is the intensity of your motivation. Okay, so if you have very strong anger, very strong confusion, very strong jealousy, very strong greed or attachment, that's one factor that makes the action heavy. So the action itself might not be weighty in and of itself, like we just went through, like, let's say, idle talk in and of itself isn't as weighty as all the ones that came before it in the list. But if we have a strong motivation to do idle talk, then it makes that karma heavy. Okay? So things that are not naturally heavy can become heavy. Things that are naturally heavy, you know, if we do them with a very light motivation, then they become, you know, they're not as intense. Which reminds me, I have this question to answer. So somebody wrote and said, okay, well, I'll read the question. The main question dealt with awareness and specifically latencies or habituation on the mind stream done without any awareness of the act before, during, or after. So the latencies are placed on the mind stream by the actions, okay? The example was the killing of an insect while mindfully crossing a dark room. Having had no awareness of the act, how does karma work in this example? Also, how would it play out if the person was not being mindful? Okay, now I'm assuming that it's a dark room, you're walking across it, you have no idea you stepped on an insect. Is it a full karma? No. Okay, so to start with, because there's no intention to do it. It's not a volitional karma. Then, I found the question interesting. What is mindfully crossing a dark room? Yeah, does mindfully crossing a dark room mean that you walk slowly across the dark room? What does it mean?
It was a conversation in a safe meeting, and so it had kind of the thinking whether you were had the intention to care for any beings you might kill as you were walking through the room versus just walking through the room.
Oh, okay. So if you had some mindfulness of your precepts, some mindfulness of compassion, and so you're walking across a dark room and you have the wish not to step on any insects while you're walking across it. Now, how's that going to be different than not having that thought? First of all, in a dark room, I don't know how many insects there are. Maybe kind of, you know, walking out in the forest when there's light, but you still can't see the insects because they're under something. That's more of a situation, you know. Yeah, I mean, unless you have lots of insects in your house. But, you know, if you have the thought, I don't want to harm any living beings, and it's possible that there's living beings here, yeah, then that makes you walk more carefully. Then you have a virtuous mental state, don't you? And if you accidentally kill some living being, I don't think there's anything negative about that, because your mind certainly wasn't in that frame of mind. Okay? If you think, oh, I bet there's lots of bugs here, but I don't care if I step on them, and then you go and cross it and you step on bugs, then there's going to be some negative karma. Okay? Actually, in the Tibetan tradition, when they divide the 10 precepts into 36, they divide the precept of killing, I think, into 4, is it? And so one of them is like thinking that there may be some sentient being somewhere, but you don't care, and so, you know, you're going to burn that wood, or you're going to, you know, do whatever you're doing because you don't even care if there's somebody there or not. Okay. Okay, so let's go back here. Okay, so the weight of the intention was one factor, okay? Then the second factor is the weight due to the performance, okay? So here they give the example of killing, and then they say that you can apply this to all the other actions, okay? So let me read the things that it says for killing, okay? So killing, stealing, unwise sexual behavior, lying, you know, all these things. Killing with a mind delighting in and being glad about having taking life, or taking life in the future. In other words, you're happy that you're doing this action. Okay? So that makes it heavy. Yeah? Then engaging in the action yourself, causing others to take it up and praise it. So whether you do it yourself, or you ask somebody else to do it, or you rejoice at somebody else doing it, you're creating the action. So remember in the 35 Buddhas, that's we confess the action, asking someone else to do it, and rejoicing. Okay. And then the third part of performance is doing it with a mind that is pleased when such a thing is seen, and doing it after prolonged premeditation and preparation. Okay? So you're happy that other people are going to see you do it. You know, you're with a gang and you're going to get status in the gang from killing. And after a lot of premeditation, yeah, so you spend a lot of time thinking, you know, how you're going to do this action. Then fourth, this is all under the second factor of performance. Doing it constantly and diligently, and each time killing a great deal. Okay, so whatever the negative action is, doing it constantly, you know, diligently, you don't mess up. Yeah, you pay attention. Okay. Then 5 is killing your victim by torture. Rick Cruz should hear this one. He believes in waterboarding. Ted Cruz. I'm sorry, Rick. I mean, Ted Cruz.
How that would apply to the other actions besides killing?
Well, if you do something, well, stealing, if you're really torturing somebody before you steal, like, here's your prized possession, I'm going to take it and it's all going to be mine. And you're making the person mentally suffer before you do the action. Okay, so that would how it would be in the other ones. Okay, killing after frightening your victim into performing inappropriate actions. Okay, so it could be, you know, whatever it is. I mean, this happens a lot with unwise sexual behavior, you know, in terms of sexual assault and rape. You frighten somebody and coerce them into doing something, okay, first, before you rape them or whatever. And then killing while your victim is weak, suffering, or impoverished, or while the victim is moaning or piteously reciting laments. Okay, so the whoever you're doing this negative action to, like let's take harsh speech, you know, you're just furious and you're really giving it to somebody, and that person's crying and they're saying, please stop, don't say this to me, it's too painful, and you just go ahead and do it anyway. Okay, so that's all those come under the performance. In other words, how you're doing it, how you do the action. Then the third one is weight due to the absence of an antidote. Okay, so you've done a negative action and you apply no antidote. So here are like examples of that. Not taking precepts on a daily basis. Yeah, or I think in those of us who are ordained, we have precepts. And for the 5 lay precepts, people have those on a daily basis. Then the second, while not doing such things as observing one-day vows on the new moon, or the 8th, 14th, 15th days of the month, while not occasionally being generous, collecting merit, speaking about the teaching, making obeisance, rising when a respected person enters your presence, pressing your palms together in respect, or having an attitude of veneration. Okay, so even on the days when you're not taking the one-day precepts, then not doing these other things that create merit, such as showing respect to those worthy of respect, making offerings, speaking about the Dharma, you know, having an attitude of veneration. So those are the kinds of things that would make if you did them, they would like help purify the action, but not doing them as, you know, on a regular basis, then that helps make the action heavier. Then, while not from time to time becoming ashamed, embarrassed, or having a preponderance of contrition. So, you know, again, if you have some of the good shame, you know, which I call integrity, and a consideration from others, then that's going to make it much lighter. But not having those, okay, at least once in a while makes it heavier. And then also, while not having reached either a state of freedom from worldly attachment or clear knowledge of the teaching. So you're still an ordinary being. So that's going to make it heavier too. Okay? So these are going to apply for all the 10. Okay, then the fourth factor is weighty due to clinging to the perverse. Okay, so this is any of these actions done in reliance upon any kind of wrong view. Okay, so for example, those who kill out of a desire to be religious, you know, like ISIS, thinking that that's religious to kill, relying on the views of those who make animal sacrifice. So that's the example he gave. They think that there is no fault in slaughtering livestock because the Lord of all beings created them to be used. Yeah, there's that belief in Christianity too, that animals were created for human consumption, so eating them and killing them is okay. Okay, so you can think, you know, in terms of the other actions too, you know, ways that you do them based on some kind of wrong view. Yeah, like unwise, unkind, sexual behavior, thinking that this is your spiritual path. Yeah, or thinking that, oh, we had this example, everybody does it, so it's okay for me to lie. Yeah? Yeah, so therefore it's not negative. So this kind of thing, you know, based on a wrong view. Then the fifth one is killing that is here it's weighty due to the basis. So, and here it's different for each one. So we'll go through all of them. Yeah, Tsongkhapa gives quite an extensive commentary here. So in terms of killing, it's taking the life of a large animal. So killing a large animal is going to be heavier than killing a small animal because you need more energy to do it. So that's why His Holiness, you know, he recommends if people can be vegetarian, do that. But if they can't, then eat bigger animals because then less lives are taken. You know, many people who become vegetarian, they go off beef, but they eat sea fish and chicken, which involves the taking of many, many lives. You know, with sea fish, you know, if you're eating scallops or prawns, many living beings die for one dinner. Whereas if you're eating beef, then it's, you know, one animal's lost life spreads over many. So, you know, and then also, yeah, if you kill a larger animal, it takes more of your physical energy than killing a small one. Okay? So, due to the basis is taking the life of a large animal, a human, a fetus. Oh, yeah, a fetus. So, you know, no abortion. Your parents, your aunt or uncle, someone such as a guru, a close friend, a learner on the path, a bodhisattva, an arhat, or a solitary realizer. Also, it is killing which is weighty due to its basis when you know that a Tathagata cannot be killed and you bring forth blood from a Buddha with an intention to harm. Okay? So in the same way, lying or creating disharmony or coveting or, any of these in relationship to these kind of bases. But he's going to go into that a little bit more here. Okay, so killing that is done with the opposite of these five causes is a light killing. You should understand that the weight of the remaining 9 non-virtuous actions is similar to killing, except for the bases, which is as follows. Okay, so the first 4, the intention, the performance, the absence of antidote, and the wrong views are the same for all the 10. Here, the basis is different, okay? So stealing is weighty due to its basis. If it involves taking a great deal, okay, so you're robbing a lot of money, or you're taking really good things. You take something that's quite nice, or stealing after deceiving those who trust you. I mean, that's really awful, isn't it? You convince somebody to trust you and then you go rip them off. Or stealing from the lowly, the impoverished, people who don't have much, renunciates, so the Sangha, or other Buddhist practitioners in general. So that makes it heavier, or it involves stealing what is highly valued, so something that's very worth a lot to the person. Or so it may be even something, a memento that's worth a lot to that person's mind. Or stealing the property of learners, that means here in solitary realizers on the path, arhat, solitary realizers, or the Sangha community, or stupas. Okay, and I would think also from statues and from Dharma texts too, any kind of stealing involving them would be heavier. Then sexual misconduct that is weighty due to its basis is sleeping with those whom you should not have intercourse with. Your mother, those who are her relatives. So this could mean your father as well and his relatives. The spouses of people who are close friends. So people do that a lot nowadays too, kind of they sleep with each other's spouses. Okay, monks or nuns, so it doesn't matter whether they're fully ordained novices, whatever. In terms of inappropriate body parts, sexual misconduct that is weighty due to its basis is oral intercourse. In terms of improper time, it is intercourse with one observing a one-day vow, a pregnant woman at the end of term, or someone who's sick. They should also say somebody who doesn't want to have sex. This is why, I'm not happy about, anyway. In terms of an inappropriate place, it is intercourse in the vicinity of a stupa or within the compounds of the Sangha. Okay. Yeah, see, it leaves out the whole thing about somebody who doesn't want to, somebody who isn't consenting, which, boy, if you tried this on a college campus and say, but Lama Tsongkhapa doesn't say this is negative, you're going to have a big problem. So I think it needs to be updated to our culture. Okay, lying that is weighty due to its basis is through desiring to delude and deceive, telling lies with many purposes. What's a lie with many purposes? Maybe one lie covers a lot of things. Yeah, convinces people about a lot of things that you want them to think badly, otherwise. And telling lies to people who have helped you, that again, really betraying trust. Yeah, but people do this so much, don't they? In marriages, in families. Yeah, so from parents through the Buddhas, these are people who have helped you, okay? From parents through the Buddhas, to good persons, so lying to virtuous people, to friends, again, people who trust you, and telling a lie that gives rise to one or more of the three weighty actions: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Okay, so you lie and then it winds up with somebody getting killed, stealing, or sexual misconduct occurring. Telling a lie in order to split apart the Sangha community is the weightiest among all of these. Yeah, that's really bad. So causing disturbance in a Sangha community, lying, causing people to divide into factions. This is one of the Sangha Visesas, the remainders in our precepts, isn't it? Making accusations that are false. Yeah, so it's really quite serious. Then divisive speech that is weighty due to its basis is speech that splits apart those who have been friends for a long time, that splits apart teachers, parents, teachers and their students, parents and their children, split the Sangha community, and divisive speech that gives rise to weighty actions, so meaning the three physical actions. Yeah, so again, this is very interesting, very good to go through these. It's on, if you have Lamrim Chenmo, it starts on page 227, and make examples of each one of these. Because if you go through and make examples, and that's how you do meditation on this, then you get a real feeling for the diversity of negative karmas and which ones can be quite heavy. And then we think of how we've seen different people do them and how we've done different ones ourselves. Okay, offensive speech, is, or harsh speech, that is weighty due to the basis is speaking offensive words to parents and the like, or to someone like your guru, your spiritual mentors, speaking harshly with untrue and inaccurate lies, directly scolding, criticizing, or reproaching someone. Okay? Then senseless speech that is weighty due to its basis is the weight of the senseless speech of the three other non-virtuous vocal actions, lying and so forth, is as above. Other actions of senseless speech that are weighty due to their basis include senseless words based on fighting, fault-finding, disputes, and divisions. Such activities, so talking about all that kind of stuff. Such activities as reading the treatises of non-Buddhists with an attitude of attachment, or speaking about them with an attitude of attachment, taunting or speaking inappropriately towards our parents, our relatives, our spiritual mentors. I was just thinking how the campaign for the president, for the highest office in the land, for somebody who should be a leader with character, who can lead a country, the campaigns are full of all these non-virtues of speech, aren't they? They're lying, they're speaking divisive words, they're criticizing each other, they're talking senseless nonsense. And this is to elect a leader, which in some kind of civilized country should be somebody with integrity that people trust. Huh? You would think. I mean, this is, when they say it's a degenerate time, this is a sign of it. Yeah? So coveting that is weighty due to its basis includes desiring the offerings made to the Sangha and to stupas. That's easy to happen, somebody offers the kind of fruit or cookies you like on the altar, and you're going, I wonder when they're going to take those down. Or they offer, something you like to the Sangha, and I wonder when they're going to offer that to the community, or I wonder if I can get it, or, okay, so this kind of thing. And with arrogance about your own good qualities, desiring to receive things from kings and the like, or from learned religious companions. So you really want people to give you gifts. And the more famous the people are, and the higher class the people are who give you gifts, you really want their gifts, because then you can brag about getting a gift from them. Yeah. Okay, so you want profit and services, or you want coveting profit and services for your knowledge. So I'm very learned. Where shall I go teach? Where they'll give me a lot of offerings, or I'm very well spoken, maybe I can go, what do they call this, on the, on a book circuit or a speaking circuit, the people who get six-figure fees for giving an hour-long speech. Yeah, so you're coveting, I'm going to go give a speech here and there, and they're going to pay me so much money. Yeah. Malice that is weighty. So it's so interesting how, like if you have that kind of attitude, other people will think you're completely normal. They'll say, how lucky you are. You get to go there. They're going to give you a lot of money. How fortunate you are. You got a gift from, from Donald Trump. Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, and so it's so strange, here, they're negative actions, and yet in our society, people think they're really good things. Okay, so malice that is weighty includes malice directed towards your parents, your relatives, spiritual mentors, people without any faults, the poor, Yeah, so sitting in your mind complaining about the poor, the suffering, the pitiful, the migrants, you know, that have nowhere to go, and mentally you're just, you know, dumping on them. Those who have done something wrong to you but confessed it to you and apologized from the depths of their heart, but you still have strong malice towards them, that makes it weighty. And wrong views that are weighty due to their basis are the rejection of all the fundamental religious tenets. Okay? And also the view that in the world there are neither arhats, those who have, or aryas, you know, there aren't people on the path, that enlightenment doesn't exist, awakening doesn't exist. Okay. And then Tsongkhapa gives another set of actions that make things weighty. And this is from the Yogacarya Bhumi. Okay. By Asanga. Okay. So first one is, although the Chinese say it's Maitreya. Yeah. So the first one of these is conditioning, actions motivated by intense forms of the three mental poisons or by their absence. So it's interesting, they call it conditioning when it's really intention. Yeah. Then habituation, frequently doing something or becoming used to it and deeply involved in either virtuous or non-virtuous actions for a long time. Yeah. So if you're in the habit of setting up your altar every morning, then that makes it heavier. Yeah. If you're in the habit of complaining, that also makes it heavier. Okay, then the nature. So this is what we said about the order in which they come, which ones are heavier and which ones are lighter. Then the basis, so the actions that help or harm those like the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and spiritual mentors. So basis meaning the people that we do the actions in terms of. So lying to them or praising them, you know, can be especially heavy. Fixation on incompatible factors. For as long as you live, you completely take up non-virtuous actions and do not cultivate virtue even once. That's heavy. But of course, this is a Sangha, and he's the one who said that there's those that don't have any lineage.
It's called fixation of what? The
Fixation on incompatible factors. And then the sixth one, he said, is eradication of unfavorable factors. So having eliminated the groups of non-virtues, you become free from attachment and cultivate virtuous actions. So then all your virtuous actions will be heavy. Okay. Then there's some more. I mean, it's amazing. Because when I was looking, I have so many sets of notes, you know, on what makes things happy. There's a set of 4 and a set of 6 and a set of 5 and another set of 5, and you know, there's so many things. Yeah, so there's another one here. Okay. So this is, have you had enough? Do you have an idea? Well, I won't read it. I'll just say, so strength in terms of the recipient. So who you're doing the action towards is going to make the action heavy. Okay. Strength in terms of the support. Okay. Okay, so this is the one. Yeah, so the support here means the person who's doing it. So here, he's quoting something. He says, the Buddha said that non-virtues are lighter for the knowledgeable who regret their former non-virtuous actions, restrain themselves from future non-virtue, and don't conceal their shortcomings. Okay, so this makes an action. If you're somebody who regrets and purifies, then it makes the action lighter. Okay, so I know the question arises. Well, what about monastics when we do negative actions? Is it heavier or is it lighter? So some people say it's lighter because we know how to purify, but then that assumes that we do the purification. If we don't do the purification, then that's no good. But from another angle, for a monastic to act negatively, they have to overcome the power of that dam that the precept made. So the intention or something's going to be more intense when they act negatively. So, it could be a factor working against you because you have to overcome more, your precept to do the negative action, or it could be a factor working for you because you know how to purify and you're more likely to do it. Okay, then the strength also in terms of the objects. So, who you're doing the action in terms of. Strength in terms of the attitude, so your intention. Yeah, so all those factors. So we can really see there, a lot of these lists have the same elements. It has to do with the strength of your intention, the nature of the action, the way the action is done, whether you purify or not, whether it's a habitual action that you do repeatedly. So, there's all these different sorts of, they all kind of come together in the list here. And there are many lists that come together in common points. Yeah, that way I said it right. Okay, so questions, comments? Yeah.
Regarding the support of the actor, it seems like there's times when a monastic could do something that could be a lot heavier because they may be doing something, say, harsh speech, which would could cause a layperson to lose their faith.
Yeah.
Or another monastic to lose their faith.
Right, okay. So here, I think that would be more in terms of the performance, how the action is done. Because it's true, a monastic who, let's say, speaks harshly can make lay people lose their faith. And so that could be, that's going to be more, that's going to be heavier than somebody who nobody identifies as a monastic doing something, speaking harshly. Which I think is one of the reasons why the Buddha wants us to wear robes, because if we're wearing the robes, they remind us of the precepts. And we become more aware that other people are, how other people are going to think of the three jewels is often going to depend on our behavior. So if we really care about the three jewels and if we really care about other sentient beings, then it makes us more mindful of our precepts, more mindful of our values, and more careful with our behavior. Yeah, and so that's why, sometimes in the West, monastics put on lay clothes to go to town because they say they don't like people staring at them or making comments or whatever, but it also opens them up to be quite mindless about their precepts and, from their side, be reckless and careless. And then also there's an excuse in the mind because, well, nobody knows that, I'm a monastic doing this, so that's not so good.
Rejoicing in someone else's act of killing is the karmic pathway of killing, but what if someone dies of natural causes? I've been very disturbed by hearing people rejoice in Justice Scalia's death. Would rejoicing in a natural death be the pathway of malice?
And whose death?
Scalia.
Oh, okay. So what about rejoicing in the death of somebody who died from natural causes? It's interesting, they haven't told us how Scalia died. I mean, they must have had an autopsy.
They didn't.
They've got to.
They didn't.
Why not?
The family didn't want it. They didn't have an autopsy.
That's weird, because my family didn't want an autopsy for my father, but the police made it happen.
There's a difference between California and Texas.
And I guess
And
Judge...
Green and Scalia.
Yeah, there's a difference between Bernie Green and Anton Scalia. Yeah.
Wow.
That's strange.
He was the Chief Justice of the United States.
No.
Yeah. And he really loved capital punishment. Yeah. He was quite conservative on many areas. So hearing people rejoice that he died, okay, so that's malice, isn't it? A malice as an intention, and then, you know, you're rejoicing that somebody died. That's not going to be good karma. I mean, you're not rejoicing that they got killed, but you are rejoicing that their life ended, so, yeah. That's not, and having a lot of malice towards somebody. Yeah. So the best thing to do is, you know, when you think of somebody like him, because he was so powerful and influential, but what's his next life going to be like? Yeah? When you think of some of the decisions he made, yeah? And, you know, and he said emotion shouldn't play into it, and compassion shouldn't play into it. It should be exactly what the law said.
And then die hunting.
Hmm?
Then dying doing something that he, you know, hunting.
Yeah.
Animals.
Right. Yeah.
Was he was hunting when
Yeah, he was
Whale
hunting.
hunter.
Yeah, in Texas. Yeah.
he got shot? Or?
No, he died in his sleep. Yeah. But it's very strange they didn't do an autopsy. Any other questions or comments? Anything?
So
Okay.
basically says we don't do any of the non-virtues with any living beings. I mean, it includes almost everybody. I mean, you know, we could say the highly, you know,
Yeah.
the elders, the oppressed, the sangha, but it's really all living beings.
Yeah.
And it's-
Yeah, we shouldn't do it with all living beings. But somebody, let's say, who's a stranger, who's not ill, who's not oppressed, who's,
Yeah.
you know, then it's going to be less
Less
heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's good to do it, but it's not quite as heavy.
But there's a lot of powerful objects of karma in our world,
Yeah.
in our lives every day.
Right.
We have to remember.
Yeah. So chiefly, you know, it revolves around the three jewels and our spiritual mentors. And then by extension, anybody who's, you know, Sangha members, people practicing virtue. And then anybody who's, you know, our parents because of their kindness to us, or whoever raised us, you know, their kindness to us. And then, you know, the ill, the poor, the oppressed, anybody who has some kind of disadvantage. Those become all the powerful objects. You know, the one because of their qualities, the others because of their suffering, the others because of their kindness to us. So for different reasons, but they all become powerful.
And powerful for virtuous actions also.
Oh yeah, for sure, very powerful. I mean, why do we make offerings every day to the Buddha Dharma Sangha? You know, it's a powerful object to offer to. So they often encourage us to make offerings, like, you create so much merit, make offerings, you create merit. You know, I can see how some people get, yeah, I want a lot of merit, so I'm going to create a lot, I'm going to do that. You know, it's kind of like a Dharma business mind, you know. Merit is going to bring me good things, and I want a lot of merit. So, you know, it's a virtuous motivation. Yeah, it's self-centered, yeah, but it's virtuous. It's better than being selfish and taking things from other people, yeah. But I like to think, like, before doing pujas or whatever, not like, oh, I got to create a lot of merit, goody. It's like, I want to do this with an attitude of showing my respect, because how I do it changes and transforms my own mind. Yeah, not that I'm going to make offerings because the action is good, but how does that action work on my own mind? Yeah.
Yesterday you said that, in the West, children don't have respect towards their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a lot of those negative involved. Also, children even kill their parents.
Yeah.
And a lot of harsh speech and
Mm-hmm.
and so theoretically, I mean, I know, because I came from this kind of circumstance with many kids who have been abused by their parents, and they have done that to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that plays into it. But you, from a Buddhist perspective, you see them, okay, the parents actually did that because they suffered. They have been, under the influence of their afflictions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how
Okay.
you know,
Okay, so a situation where the parents are abusing the children, and so the children then lie or do some kind of negative action towards the parents. So that's still going to be negative. But if the child's doing it to protect themselves, not so much out of hatred for their parents, but out of self-protection, I would think that would be lighter than doing it with strong hatred towards their parents. I mean, some years ago in Los Angeles, some rich community in LA, two young men killed their parents. The Menendez brothers, that's it, yeah. And the premeditated everything. I mean, that's really negative karma, okay? Yeah, because it wasn't like their parents were abusing them.
They did it for the money.
Yeah, for the money. Horrible, isn't it? And you think that they're the ones who gave them life, and then out of greed they kill them. So, but then, you're right, we try and meditate. Let's say if you were abused by your parents, you think that, they were doing the best they could. They were limited by their own afflictions, their own life circumstances, and we do that as a way of cultivating forgiveness for them, and a way of assuaging our own hatred and anger towards them. Yeah. So I don't think any of this is contradictory. Yeah. I think when you're little, if you're really trying to protect yourself, you don't have the mind to think my parents are kind to me and all that. You're just thinking about how to protect yourself. When you're an adult, hopefully your parents aren't still beating up on you in the same way. And you've separated, you can separate. When you're a kid, you can't do that, But as an adult, you can move somewhere else, and then you can, start to learn how to forgive them for what they did. Yeah.
It's a side question, but I wonder how much alcohol has an influence on that development. That in the East it might be less, that children have more respect towards their parents than in the West, and because I know there are pretty high statistics about the alcohol consume and abuse in families, parents, and how kids of course react then.
Yeah. So the factor of alcohol being present and causing abuse. Yeah. What do you think? There's a lot of drinking in Asian culture, isn't there? You don't think so?
A lot of us are actually allergic to alcohol.
Really?
But I get physically sick if I drink.
You get physically sick, huh?
So we have lower tolerance, I think, historically from how.
Some genetic thing that's lower tolerance,
But
huh?
there's a lot of people who drink, of course.
Yeah.
But there are also people who cannot take.
Okay, huh? Because a lot of people tell me about in business things, they drink a lot.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
So there's two extremes.
But sure, drugs and alcohol often play a part in creating, you know, in an action that's very heavy.
I would see there to what she's saying is the chaos that happens when alcohol is in families.
Mm-hmm.
The chaos comes out verbally, and then verbal kind of anger, a lot of kind of verbalization that we would consider over the top is normalized. So there's a whole different environment that you're in.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying in the present, when there's a lot of drinking or drugging in a family, that, I mean, the actions people do under the influence is more extreme. But those extreme actions become normal because they're done so frequently in the family. That still makes them heavy negative karma, yeah. And the people become unaware of it because it's done so often.
If you're off doing business drinking, you're probably not getting into that chaotic mode that families get into.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
something about the difference.
Yeah, the difference in the countries, yeah. Yeah, hopefully if you're drinking and for a business thing, you don't get totally intoxicated because you'll sign away all your money. But yeah, families really play on each other a lot.
Someone asked, assassination of a president who many feel is not leading well and is selfish, and by killing this person it can save more people from suffering. How should we view the karma?
Think about it. Is killing virtuous or non-virtuous? Whether no matter who it is it virtuous or non-virtuous?
Non-virtuous.
It's non-virtuous, isn't it? Okay. Now, if you have so much compassion for people that you're willing to bear the experiencing the result of killing because you think it's going to be beneficial for people to take someone out, and you're willing to bear that karma being born in the hell realms because your compassion is so intense, then that's something different, isn't it? But how many people's compassion is like that? It's quite selfish, isn't it? Yeah. And the main point is there's got to be other ways to solve problems besides killing people. You know, these kind of questions come from the premise of the only way to solve a problem is to take someone out. And that's such a limited view. Come on. We're human beings, we're adults. Let's think of different ways to solve problems. Yeah, so similarly, it's killing. I don't care if you enlist in the army and they send you to Iraq or Afghanistan, you know, and you kill, as long as you're doing it voluntarily, it's killing, isn't it? It's government sanctioned killing. I mean, look what our government does with capital punishment. Yeah, government-approved killing, murder. Government-approved murder. Murder is a stronger word. Yeah, that doesn't make it good karma just because it's government-approved. Yeah, FDA stamped. Yes.
Just returning to just now's conversation, but children fall under heavy objects too, right? Because they're weak and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because I think in Asia, a lot of times, child abuse is just not reported. There's no discourse around it. And
Yeah.
a lot of it's economic exploitation. People sell their kids still.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here too, you know, the whole idea of child abuse is, you know, something that just became quite in the public mind the last few decades. Yeah, not for so long. Yeah, because children are like your property. I mean, any kind of domestic abuse, you know, your spouse is your property, so you do what you want.